Mr. Speaker,
I call the Honourable Phil Goff. 5 minutes.
Mr. Speaker, in my brief 5 minutes tonight, I want to focus on a very special group of New Zealanders. They make up about 35% of our population. They make up 35% of our production. Don't come to Auckland. Auckland's coming to you. These are Aucklanders, and we are growing by 800 people a week, 40,000 people a year. Now, compared to the problems of some parts of New Zealand, having the problem of growth is probably a good problem to have. But I'd rather have growth with a government committed to working in partnership with Auckland City to provide the infrastructure that enables that growth to be properly dealt with. And, Mr. Speaker, sadly, that is not happening. We don't have a regional development policy in New Zealand that works. Challenge any member of the government or the opposition to tell me one regional development policy that works, other than housing unaffordability and congestion in Auckland that drives people out of Auckland. I don't think that's a satisfactory regional development policy. And we don't have a policy, sir, that tries to match population growth to the infrastructure that serves it. Once upon a time, we'd tweak the pointing system for immigration, we'd lower the threshold, we wanted more people coming in, we'd raise it if we wanted less. But the government knows that the only thing that's sustaining growth in New Zealand is immigration at the moment, so they're allowing that immigration to come through at the speed that it will. Now, I'm in favour of immigration, sir. I think the immigrants to New Zealand, and we're all immigrants to New Zealand actually, at some point in history, really add strength and diversity and make a huge contribution to New Zealand socially, economically and culturally. But I worry about the impact of growth that the government is not addressing. I worry about the road congestion that makes it almost impossible to get around Auckland at peak hours. You know, the Productivity Commission says that it costs us $1.5 billion a year in lost time alone because of traffic congestion in Auckland. $1.5 billion. And the council, the New Zealand Council for Infrastructure Development, puts it at $3 billion. That's like taking $3 billion a year and tipping it down the drain, because in the lost productivity you've got nothing to show for it. We desperately need infrastructure that will match the growth. And we had, sir, a number of things that were very useful. The City Rail Link, to double the amount of passenger traffic on rail lines. But for 5 years, various ministers in the government opposed that. So when we get it, it'll be 5 years late. We had a thing called a petrol tax for Auckland, which enabled the council to have the money to invest in transport infrastructure. The government repealed it. But I'm really pleased to say, Mr. Speaker, that the government has done a U-turn on the City Rail Link and is about to do a U-turn on road charging legislation, but it's too late. We're building a motorway up the northwest into Henderson and Te Atatu. And it's good that it's being broadened, but there's no busway there. No busway, no separated lane for buses. Yet we know on the North Shore it's the busway that has been the most effective way of getting more people into town from the shore by public transport than we get by private transport. So we're not thinking ahead. We've got a major port future study that we're looking at the moment to know whether or not we should move the port out of Auckland, like they did in Sydney. But the government won't participate in that. So we don't have a regional or a national strategy for it. And what I'm saying to the government is we have to have that partnership between central government and Auckland City if we're to make Auckland work. Auckland is a great city. It's the only global city in New Zealand. It's the place where we can retain New Zealanders and we can attract the best talent from overseas. But for New Zealand to succeed, Auckland has got to succeed. And my call on the government in housing and transport, the two major infrastructure deficit areas, is for the government to get off the sidelines and to collaborate with Auckland City so we can make Auckland a truly great place for New Zealand and a great place for people to live.